So I used to run a shop, Kirana shop. The place where I had my shop, right in front of that there was an old library which nobody visited, and the librarian of that library used to have a pawn shop over there, and he used to give me keys of the library, and I used to read widely.
There was something that happened in your family which forced you to leave school and open up this shop along with your father.
There is another thing, I mean, you can read it probably from Cyril Sandberg's book. If you get a seat on a spaceship, don't ask which seat, just take it, grab it.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं ऋतुराज। सपनों के पंख में आप सबका फिर से स्वागतम। Welcome back to SapnoKePankh when dreams get wings. This is Rituraj and today I am in the University of Cambridge, Darwin College. और एक सच्ची कहानी लेके हाजिर हुआ हूं और एक संघर्ष की कहानी लेके आपके सामने आया हूं. We'll talk to one more of our Indian friend, Indian student who has traveled all the way from his native Araria district of the state of Bihar to Cambridge.
जब रास्ते थे मुश्किल और चलना था दुश्वार, जब नदियों में था उफान और नहीं हाथ में पतवार, फिर भी रही मंजिल पर नजर निडर, उठा के सियाही काली रात की, अंधेरों में उजाले में लिख चला, अंधेरों से उजाले में लिख चला.
He is now a doctorate and a fellow of Darwin College. We'll learn about his journey, another true story of dedication, aspiration, determination and success. Dr. Rajesh Bhagat, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rituraj. Thanks.
Rajesh, शुरुआत में I said Araria, Bihar, वहाँ से शुरू हुई थी आपकी journey. Your journey started from that place. Take us through those years of hard work, through those years of, when you thought probably, you would have never imagined that someday you would be in Cambridge during those years when you were a student, a school-going student of Araria. Take us through that journey.
Yeah, so I went to normal school, it's called Adarsh Vidya Mandir, this government school in Araria. But at some point, my financial circumstances didn't allow me to carry on going to the school. Nevertheless, I mean, I was, as it works in Bihar, my name was registered in school until 8th class. However, I used to be a shopkeeper over there. So I used to run a shop, Kirana shop, and but I was also very fortunate enough about many things. For example, the place where I had my shop, right in front of that there was an old library which nobody visited, and the librarian of that library used to have a pawn shop over there, and he used to give me keys of the library, and I used to read widely, and I was fortunate enough, and I think that laid the foundation that always kept the dream alive. I mean, read widely, know about the world, that there is more than what the circumstances ones are in. So yeah, so this was. But
you had to leave school when you were in class 5. I remember there was something that happened in your family which forced you to leave school and open up this shop along with your father. Take us through that story.
Yeah, so I was in class 5th, and my father, he had lost. First, he was doing he was a contractor, and then kind of it didn't work out. So we thought of starting a shop, and initially I was supposed to help him, and by all means he had the intention to get little help, which anybody would expect. But then slowly, gradually, I found my ways. I mean, I was interested in shop because that was that allowed us to get the ends meet, and therefore I got gradually interested into that. So I was always interested in studying, but at the same time my circumstances suggested yes, I should start business and try to help my family, and I did that. And
at a cost of not going to school.
Yeah, at the cost of not going to school. But I mean, at some points, I used to be good at quiz. So I remember one particular instance when a school teacher came to my shop and said, Rajesh, there is a quiz competition and we would like you to participate from the school. And I participated and I won the quiz competition, and then I got an award from the governor of Bihar because he was visiting Araria and so on. So of course I until class 8th, which in India is called middle school.
Yeah.
So while I was in middle school, my name was always registered in school, but I gradually stopped going to the school. And after class 8th, of course I was full-time a businessman, and I wrote my 10th exam as a private candidate.
So it was an interesting story, Rajesh, you had told us when you and I spoke about your journey. You were going to that wholesale market in Purnia, probably in Bihar, and how the truck driver or someone wanted to cheat you, but you were a favorite of all the neighboring businessmen. Take us to that interesting journey, because I think that's where your foundation of where you loved maths as a subject, number crunching. I could see those seeds getting sown from there itself. Take us to that story.
Yeah, so I used to be a businessman, and it was a very small business. So we used to go to Gulab Bagh, it's in Purnia, to buy things for our shop. And of course we never had enough stuff to have an entire truck load of stuff. So we used to share. And once in a while what used to happen was, some people had more stuff, others had less, and then we had to kind of share the cost. And we saw, I saw some not so nice business was going on, which kind of, it was so intuitive to me, and I immediately found out what is going on. And yeah, I kind of made this process fair. So whenever I was in a truck, the process was much more fairer.
So they saw you as a child and they tried to cheat you.
They tried to. So all the big businessmen who had more stuff in their truck, they had some kind of monopoly, and they would do the accounting actually, essentially. But I found the fault in their account, and a few times. But usually it was fair process, and a few times I found fault in their account, the way they were accounting. It was pretty easy for me to see what is going on. Right. And I corrected the accounting. And I can tell you one thing, that it can get very complicated. Imagine if 10 different people have 10 different kind of weights and bag full of stuff, and then you are accounting for it. Things can get complicated.
And the businessman loved you because ये छोटा सा बच्चा के हमें सिखा रहा है. This young kid is teaching us, the basics of accounting.
Yeah, yeah, they all kind of liked me in some sense.
And then you did your 10th, and then what was your score? What was your percentage?
So in 10th I scored 49%. Simply I didn't go to school. I just wrote the exam by just studying at home after my shop, after my business. So yeah, I got 49%. And
then you went for your 12th, where you actually scored higher marks than the second division that you scored in your 10th?
Yeah, so in 12th I had 65%. It's from Bihar board, which is a fairly okay marks in Bihar board at that time at least. So yeah, I was first class in 12th. But again, I didn't go to schools.
So 11th, 12th also you did homeschooling. You self-taught yourself.
Yeah, I was still a businessman.
And how did it work? Like, say, without going to school or without going to college, without having attendance, were you allowed to sit for the exams?
So at some point, I don't know if you're aware of, in Bihar when I was growing up, the education system was it was in pretty bad condition. So it's not just me, nobody went to colleges actually. So the education system was in pretty bad condition. And so in Bihar you go to college for your 11th and 12th, similar to here, so 6th form colleges like what we have here. And there was nothing actually, there was nothing going on in the college. So I was not a private candidate when I gave my intermediate exam, because I am not also allowed. So people are not allowed to write intermediate exam as a private candidate, because you have to do practicals. You are supposed to do practicals, which you can't do as a private candidate. However, as a 10th you are allowed to write your exam as a private candidate.
Now, another interesting story I remember, Rajesh. So tell me something about Araria. Now, I know the infrastructure. कौन सी साल की बात कर रहे हैं? Which year are we talking about when you were in Araria?
2001, 2005.
And then the general infrastructure of this town, is it like quite remote, or is it like quite okay? How was it?
So yeah, Araria. I think it is second most deprived districts in the entire country. So I think Kishanganj was the most deprived district, which was our neighboring district, and Araria was second most deprived district in terms of resources. So we didn't have light. I mean, that was the story of entire Bihar, but Araria particularly, we didn't have light or running
power, electricity,
or running water or anything like that. So it was very basic.
And most of your self-taught education at that time was in Hindi, I suppose?
Yeah, it was in Hindi.
शायद 10 साल पहले या 12 साल पहले राजेश से पता करते हैं, he also didn't know to speak English, but he went through a process of teaching himself English. और कितना बढ़िया English अंग्रेजी बोल रहे हैं, आप खुद सुन सकते हो. Rajesh, tell us about that story of how you learnt English.
Yes, so I mean, English is the language which is used. It's the language of science. I mean, wherever you go in the world, people speak English, and it's very important skill, right? And all the publication, all the papers, everything is in English, right? So yeah, but when you come from, let's say, a very remote place where you have never spoken any English, or you don't have much exposure to English, then it is very hard. So for example, suddenly, let's say if you have a book and you don't know most of the words, and if you try to read it, it will feel very hard, because I mean, you are trying to read and understand it, but unfortunately you won't know most of the words. So in my case, what I did was I took Da Vinci Code, and
Da Vinci Code, of all books, you chose that novel to teach yourself English.
Well, I used to read a little bit, of course, and Hollywood also had some influence actually. So I used to watch some movie here and there, and TV, whichever came. But it was not good. When mainly the transformation happened when one day I decided, okay, fine, I'll take this book, I'll read this book thoroughly, and every single word which I don't know, I will write it down and I will remember it. And actually, the process is that once you read the words, and if you're continuing reading, then these words will again appear again and again and again, and then that is how you get into the feel of, you start understanding. And then, yeah, of course, Da Vinci Code itself is very interesting if you understand it. And that was the process by which I learned English.
That's awesome. I mean, such an inspiring journey, and I think your elder brother had quite a big influence in helping you out in that. Otherwise, you did not have any other mentors or godfathers in a sense.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a large part of whatever I am, it's due to my elder brother, and my elder brother had a mentor. So, essentially, for example, in Hindi, there was this publication called Mir Publication Moscow, and they used to sell really cheap Russian books. Right. So we used to get a lot of cheap Russian books written by Tolstoy and all the other people, and that kind of laid the foundation of, okay, fine, there is a life beyond Araria. First thing. Second thing is, life could be very interesting. For example, I read Anna Karenina very early, and that had like profound kind of influence on me. Anna Karenina is just such a beautiful novel where everybody was right ethically. Nobody was wrong, but still people were in misery. And I think that is kind of crux of life. Everybody tries to do best for themselves. Right. And so all these readings, had huge influence on me. And this trickled through my brother's mentor, from my brother's mentor to my brother, and from my brother to me, and my entire family actually.
Awesome. So 12th happened with 65%, and then where did life take you from Araria?
So 12th happened with 65%, and then After that, my brother got a job in Border Security Force as an assistant commandant, and so we had some cash flow, and I could stop working after sometime after I did 12, a few years later, and then I prepared for AIEEE and IIT JEE. I got into Punjab University. So I was at the Department of Chemical Engineering and Technology in Punjab University.
This is Chandigarh you're talking about.
So I did my undergrad over there, and I was lucky that I was in Chandigarh. Chandigarh is just it's just a place. It allows you to dream, and it allows you to dream big actually, suddenly. And it was fascinating in Chandigarh. I was there for 4 years, and of course, in the very beginning, I tried many things. I tried business because money was the key issue at that time. So while I was in Chandigarh, I was participating in this something called Tata Crucible. So I was one of the finalists of that zone, and I was on TV again doing CNB. Our quiz was broadcasted on CNBC TV 18 at that time. We were very happy. I mean, that is also a phenomenal day because that was the first time I went into a 5-star hotel.
Wow.
Because
this was during your engineering days.
Yeah. And I was thinking of doing management and whatnot. And then in my 3rd year, worked very hard, got into many government jobs. And it was recession year actually. So I finished my undergrad in 2010. And 2008 was recession year, so 2009 was when I was supposed to be recruited. So it was a hard year, but I did it. I had multiple job offers, but I also got an offer from Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. So I went to Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, and I met a professor over there.
This was for your post-graduation?
Post-graduation. I went there and I talked to him. I said, well, I have these offers. What should I do? And he said that, well, you also have this offer, so why don't you come and study? You will get the job. Don't worry about it.
So very interesting. Now we are talking to Rajesh because this same boy from Araria to Punjab, Chandigarh, to Bangalore, and then finally Cambridge, and he got a scholarship of almost equivalent to 40,000 pounds, well, 40 lakh rupees per year for his PhD. 1.2 crores to do his PhD. We'll come to that conversation, but Rajesh, IISc ke time pe you had also an interesting story about going for an interview with Bhabha Atomic Research Center.
Yeah. So that was before IISc. So right after my undergrad, I was interviewed for BARC, Bhabha Atomic Research Center. So I mean, I had already made my mind that I'm going to go to IISc, but Bhabha Atomic Research Center used to give travel money. So I said, yeah, I'm on, there is nothing to do. Why don't I go to Mumbai and they will give me travel money. So I went there for interview. And they also give you accommodation. So in my accommodation, we were 2 people. I don't know the name of the chap. He was a really lovely chap in my room, and he started studying. And I said, okay, fine. Looks like I should also do something for the interview tomorrow. So I also started studying at night. And then it was morning, right? I did it.
So you studied whole night?
I studied entire night.
For the interview, and then which you did not have any inclination to join even if you got the job. Yeah. Okay.
So I went to the interview, and the first candidate, I remember the first candidate didn't appear. So I was the second candidate. So essentially I was the first candidate. So nobody knew what they were going to ask. And I was at the interview, and the interview was going on for 40-45 minutes. And after a while, I was feeling super sleepy, and I knew that I don't want this job, in some sense. So I said, look, whatever I had to say, I have said. Now I didn't sleep last night, unfortunately, and my window is shutting down. And they started laughing. So the entire interview panel was bursted to laugh, and they said, oh, offer him a coffee or something. We will restart your window, we will reboot your window, and the interview continued for 10-15 more minutes.
Right.
And of course, after that, I was not expecting that I will get this job. And I was already in IISc.
Yeah. And then you were doing your masters, and then you were already on a scholarship in IISc.
Yeah. So I was doing my masters in IISc, and then this result came. A few of my classmates, they got the job, and so they were very excited for exciting time. I thought I didn't get it. No, I can't get it. Like it's impossible that they would offer me any job.
Right.
And they did offer me a job.
Wow.
And they did offer me a job, and they offered me a job at their cyclotron facility in Indore, and it was fascinating. I mean, look, this is all maybe 12 years ago, so I might be little incorrect. I might be little. I'm saying it from my memory, so I might not recall.
At that time, it was one of the best setup for Bach, probably in the indoor setup, right?
Yeah. So I was offered this job in Indore, and but of course I was doing my masters, and I really loved Indian Institute of Science. That was the place where I was kind of introduced to basic science.
And by the time you were in ISC, your English should have, gone up by leaps and bounds. You would have become much more confident, while speaking. Because Punjab में फिर भी शायद हिंदी से चल जाता था, लेकिन Bangalore you may have to know English. Hindi might not have been the most common language, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But then but one of the facts of India is our English is little different, right? We don't speak the way English is spoken. Like we have kind of Hinglish sort of English. Like we use word like oh, also, all the time, and so on, right? So yeah, and the language of communication in ISC was definitely English. And yeah, and I wrote some papers over there. And after that, I got a job in 3M. So I used to be a chemist actually. So I used to do polymer chemistry. So I got a job in 3M. So I carried on working in 3M in their corporate research lab for further 2 years.
And 3M in Bangalore office.
3M in Bangalore in their corporate research lab in Electronic City. So
and what was your subject in masters?
So I did masters in chemical engineering. Okay. So all my degrees are in chemical engineering.
Though you had a big knack for maths.
So chemical engineering, in chemical engineering we study transport processes, which is really math intensive. And we used to talk sometimes that why this department is called chemical engineering, this should be called the applied maths department. Okay. So an ISC chemical engineering is very rigorous. They are very thorough, and yeah, the foundation was laid over there. And then subsequently I got a job in 3M, and I carried on doing that for next 2 years. And then
when did you think of abroad, Cambridge, and applying for your scholarship? When did that happen, and what triggered that off? Because now you are in a good job. 3M is a very well-renowned company. You were probably getting a decent remuneration. So when did this change of direction happen? Because that's also very critical, because many times हम लोग सोच लेते हैं कि we think कि हाँ अब तो हो गया है, मुकाम पहुँच गया, master's degree किया, and you've done it from good renowned reputed universities and colleges. What was that trigger? And I'm sure a lot of our kids, our students who are watching this would like to know that.
So Indian Institute of Science is an amazing place in the sense that everybody who goes there, they get interested in doing basic science. And this curiosity, so when I went to 3M, of course 3M is a very research driven company and everything was fine. But soon I realized that I want to do my research for bigger societal good and goals rather than for a company. And then as you know, the application process almost takes a year, entire year. So maybe 8 or 9 months in the company, and then I realized that okay, I would like to apply for a PhD position somewhere. Right. So I applied to 2 places. I applied to Max Planck Institute in Germany, and there it was about chemistry, and I applied to Cambridge. And
for Cambridge it was maths?
At Cambridge it was again chemical engineering, but doing fluid dynamics. So fluid dynamics is quite math involved subject. And I took this Cambridge position because I was also offered this Commonwealth scholarship to do this.
So a lot of our viewers might know the prestigious Commonwealth scholarship. So Rajesh was offered the Commonwealth scholarship.
I chose Cambridge, and also there is another thing. I mean, you can read it probably from Cyril Sandberg's book. If you get a seat on a spaceship, don't ask which seat. Just take it, grab it.
That's right, really interesting. Yeah. So, so finally, from Araria, we land up in Cambridge, Rajesh, and at 1.2 crores, and probably more than that, because your PhD for 3 years was also extended for another year, and that gave you additional funding. And that's what is the most inspiring point. Like, from someone who could not go to school after class 5, and today he is in Cambridge. After completing his PhD, he has been recognized as a fellow in Darwin College. We'll come back in our next episode. Don't miss this, because Rajesh will tell us his journey of getting this Commonwealth scholarship, his research and some of his publications that has got published in international journals, how 10 Downing Street has utilized the research that he and his team has done during COVID. All of this with Rajesh in our next episode. Don't miss out. And before you leave this interview, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because all these true stories of our Indian students and professionals will keep coming back to you in this channel only. And SapnoKePankh and When Dreams Get Wings, anybody who is watching this and you have an inspiration, these are people around us, people like us, Aam Aadmi, Aam Janta, like you and me. Rajesh is not a celebrity, but he has made a mark for himself that he is now probably looked up in the world of applied mathematics. We'll come back with episode number 2, talking to Dr. Rajesh Bhagat at Cambridge. This is Rituraj signing off from episode 1. Thank you so much for watching.
आँखों के गहराए निशान ढूंढे नई एक दिशा, धागे रोशनी के मांगे मेरी दुआ, जिंदगी ने दी सदा। सपना